bring the social justice warriors out of their caves, because today we're going to talk about a subject that makes me personally go wild. We'll talk about masculinity in today's age and what it means to be a man, why it's sometimes hard to be a man. So let's get rolling, get some angry feminists to me. I'm ready. What motivates this video is actually I've seen a post recently where they said that in London they have passed a law where it's now can be seen as sexual harassment if you look at a woman in a sexual way. So they call this eye harassing. I'm done, guys. I'm done, seriously. If I would sue every grandma that's staring at me in the subway, like the prison would be full of grannies because they make me feel uncomfortable and I want to be looked at. What the fuck is this? I mean, is this a joke or something? 2 days ago, actually, I was sitting in the subway. There were two 16, 15-year-olds. They were both staring at me. I was looking away because they were too young. It made me uncomfortable, so I looked away, whatever. Then actually one of them was standing up, and so I looked at her walking out. So I checked out her body, how she looks. Nothing more than that, really. I kept on looking. She was like, "Why are you looking at me?" And I was like, dude, you are staring at me for minutes. How does that make sense? Also, where you draw the line between I'm looking at the woman behind you, probably because you're some social justice warrior bitch and like nobody wants to date you, and a woman behind you. You see where I'm going? It's pretty hard to decide like where's the border between just looking at people and looking at them in sexual ways. I'm not suggesting to stare at anybody, but this is fucking ridiculous and I will look where the fuck I want to. Okay, so, but in today's society, I mean, I'm a white man, so if I would be old on top, I would basically be worse than Hitler, right? So why are you listening to me? Okay, so to understand the dynamics we have today, we have to look at the past first. So in the past, I think that I'm not actually so informed of this whole like patriarchy thing in the past. But I think in the past there were actually some instances where women were treated like property by their husband. They could be sold like goats. Obviously that's not something very desirable or good, and I think it's great you have all of that today. But you know, men went to war, you know, they died like flies, so they didn't have a good time either. And yet a small minority of people who were like in the church or part of the crown who had a good life, or part of some whatever lords were in fashion these days, but the majority pretty much had a pretty shitty life, like men and women alike. So just to see it as a domination of men throughout history is not a very accurate thing, I would say. Then last couple of decades, women standing up, so we have feminism, and men, well, yeah, they get more passive and passive. Women become more in leadership roles, which is it's not a bad thing. Like, don't get me wrong on this, but now I was growing up in a household where like my mother was the leader in the household, not my dad. My dad was like a walking paycheck. He came home, earning the money, and you know, turn on TV, drinking a beer, and done. You could talk with him. Like now that I'm more vulnerable and more open about my emotions, that actually boosted my relationship with my dad too. But before that, I had no clue how to do that. He wasn't very available, so I had no clue what it meant to be a man. Then you hear things like toxic masculinity and all of this shit, right? In today's society. And you don't want men who are aggressive or too assertive and whatever comes with that. What ultimately results is that a lot of men, they decide they become nice guys. You know, they're like this politically correct person who doesn't offend anyone and, you know, is approved by all feminists and social justice warrior who walk out there. So good for you, man. But if you're that people pleasing, you will not get very far, because you need to be a bit selfish to compete with others. And especially if you grow up as a boy with other men, it's very competitive, right? So they are violent with each other, Like we had fights all the time, and there was physical aggression involved all the time. And I don't think that's necessarily cultural, because we were boys back then. So how can, like, boys are not very influenced by culture, are they? They become influenced by culture later. Of course they are influenced by culture, but not as much as older people. So I'm not sure if that's something that is like put on boys from culture, or that develops naturally to some extent. Now, okay, you're being this nice guy, like great, everybody likes you. You don't get cancelled out because you don't say what you think. Because if you say what you think, you get kicked out of a lot of places because they don't want to hear your thoughts, even though it reflects reality. So we have this mixture of politically correct people who want everything to be touchy-feely and sensitive, nobody gets hurt, because emotional pain is the same thing as physical pain, right? No, it isn't. And this whole like feminists and post-feministic culture where people want to use pronouns like
and my pronouns are.
And well, it's a complicated time, man. But if you are this nice guy, usually you're disconnected from your masculinity, you're disconnected from your sexuality, because you hide all of these things, because masculinity and sexuality are sometimes controversial, and these guys, they are very afraid of controversy, so they hide it, they put it down to some place where they can't be found. And what you need to do if you want to stop being this person, if you want to assert your masculinity against this modern culture, you have to reject some of the social norms. You have to embrace your masculine side, your sexual side, that is involving dirty shit, that is involving aggression and violence and whatever. These are all part not just of masculinity, but of humans. But in men, usually violence is more present than in women. That's just statistically speaking the case. Okay, and yeah, so that would be a good thing to learn to connect that into you, and you don't have to follow all the rules that like the woke feminists give you. You can go your own path. And I'm actually throwing a workshop in 3 weeks with a certified coach on this matter, Andrew Mundy. I'm working together with him, and I would be very happy to see you there. I will put the link in the description, and yeah. Remember to stay masculine and fuck the woke people. Bye.